So you get mad and you get upset and you push the machine and you hit the machine and you do all these. Yeah, you kick it and you push it and you press the buttons and you get mad and you shake the machine. You are doing an extinction burst. You're mad. So when we stop and think about, our kids for a second, when we withhold that reinforcement that they're so used to getting, what do they do? What happens to us when that machine takes our money? When it happens all the time, it really does. Or you live in a town where there's no traffic, hardly ever any traffic at all, and you're used to getting where you want to go all the time, quickly and whatever. And then tomorrow or today there's construction work or traffic is really, really bad. How do you handle it? Do you have road rage? Do you get mad? Because your reinforcement's now being withheld. So that's what extinction is. We're ignoring that problem behavior. All right. Now let's go back to plain ignoring. This is an intervention strategy designed to decrease a student's off-task behaviors, for example, withholding attention. It should be implemented if the behavior is not harmful to the student or others, even with extinction. If you're going to plan on ignoring a behavior and they're doing head banging or they're hitting themselves against the wall or something very harmful, and you ignore that and you're thinking it's for attention and it may not be, it didn't work. So you need to be careful when you ignore. We're going to talk today about how that may work and it may not work. We're going to ignore all the behaviors a client engages in that are inappropriate. Extinction, we would focus on attention, or we'd focus on a demand, or we'd focus on escape. We'd focus on one thing. Plain ignoring, we're focusing on all of it. So think about that class clown. What is, that class clown, that one kid? We all have them. We're lying to ourselves if we say we don't. When I taught for several years, I had one every single year. He's a kid who never gets sick and the kid who never misses school. What does the teacher do with a class clown? We tell the class to ignore him. We tell the class to leave him alone, tell the class to leave him be. And we try our best to ignore everything they're doing to get our attention. When class clowns want attention, or that one child, and we know who it is, we do everything that we can to have everything be ignored. Versus extinction, just that one behavior. Thing about using extinction, I'm going too fast. Okay. All right. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. When today is really inspired by a podcast that I listened to, and I had the woman. This podcast is actually in the slides. If you download the PDF, you won't have it, but you can at least look it up through YouTube and whatever. But today is inspired by Dr. Megan Miller from the Do Better Collective. And that podcast is beautiful. It's amazing. And it's a special education teacher with her, and they're talking about extinction. And that's the inspiration with my title. Ignoring a problem doesn't make it go away. And it really made me think about extinction. Are we using it correctly? Are we not using it correctly? How could we use it correctly? It really inspired today. If I just use extinction to just ignore that problem behavior, is it really going to go away? And the answer is no. I didn't teach a skill. Forget strategies, forget fixes, forget ideas, forget interventions. Did I teach a skill? Did I do anything? No, I ignored. And here's the kicker. I ignored that behavior. I ignored that problem behavior, just using extinction by itself. I ignored that problem behavior in hopes to decrease it, and maybe it did decrease. But I'm putting a lot of hope in that child. I'm putting a lot of hope in that client. that they're going to learn the right skills, they're going to do the right thing, and that problem will decrease in the future. I'm putting a lot on a 3 to 5-year-old, or even younger for some of our centers. I'm putting a lot on that child. Let's push the ages up more. Let's go from 3 years old to 18 years old. If I ignore that behavior and I don't teach a skill, how is that kid going to learn the right way of doing things? So it takes a lot. Extinction is used actually in several behavior analytic strategies. It's actually used in strategies that we do every day when we teach skills. Stop and think for a second. When we're teaching someone how to talk, when they start out with, we go, yes, awesome job. And they go to ma. And then we're just going to reward and just be super excited about mom. We're not worried about the M sound no more. We got mom. And then we get mom. The balloons drop and the celebration begins. And we are going to reinforce mom, and we're not worried about those sounds anymore. Mom is where we need to be at. So there's ways to use it correctly when you're building and shaping skills. How to use extinction correctly when the behavior has extinguished. A behavior was put on extinction, not putting a child on extinction. The teacher ignored the inappropriate behavior, not the child. This happens a lot. And I know I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. We're not ignoring children, we're ignoring the behavior. If I come into your classroom and I use an extinction process, it could be just as simple as I'm with the child and they're laughing and they're playing and they're trying to get me to, whatever. I'm going to hold my own. But once I get that child to sit or do an appropriate skill that I need them to do, it's a big deal. The balloon drop comes, specific praise. Thank you for doing this. Awesome job. I don't have to use a whole lot of words, but I want to reinforce that behavior that I want them to do. I'm not sitting there ignoring the kid. I'm sitting there holding out through that behavior. It gets struggling. It gets tough. It really does. But patience is the key. And we are ignoring that inappropriate behavior, not the child. But that's if we're using extinction correctly. Also, if we're going to use extinction, we need to pair it with something else. Extinction by itself doesn't work. Ignoring things by itself doesn't work. If I ignore my bill collectors, do the bills go away? No, they don't. They don't. It'd be awesome. It would be awesome, get rid of some of those big old bills just by refusing to answer the phone, not checking my mailbox, and we're good. No. And they have to get into some better skill, some more skill set of how to handle my bills better, how to handle my budget better, consolidate my bills. There's some other skills I may have to learn to do alongside that or in replacement of that. All right, here's another extinction example. A child is throwing a temper tantrum. We'll describe this tantrum as they are crying. It's really loud. You can hear it across the room. They're moving their arms. They're moving their feet. All that good stuff. And then we don't pay attention to that child. We're just ignoring the tantrum. We're putting that tantrum on extinction. So that child is used to getting reinforcement. We come up to them. Now, this is what Mittenberger has to say about when it comes to an example of extinction. But I've learned through my journeys, and I've learned through a lot more in this chapter in this book, is that if I'm going to ignore that tantrum, I didn't teach him anything. I didn't teach him a coping skill. I didn't teach him anything. Yes, he'll probably decrease that tantrum in the future because he's not getting that one-to-one that he wants. Crying is communication, especially for our younger kids. Actually, behavior in general is communication, but nonetheless, he's crying for a reason. Um, so what I would do, and this is me, is if a child throws a tantrum to get my attention, that I need to teach him how to appropriately get my attention. So I'm going to put the tantrum on extinction. I'm going to not so much ignore the child, but kind of calm myself down, take some deep breaths, have some patience, work my way through the tantrum and go, if you want to get my attention, you could do this. Tap me on the shoulder, or you could say this. And then, but then when they say it and when they tap, we provide that attention that they're looking for. We're teaching a replacement skill that serves the same purpose that tantrum is doing. I had a kid that I worked with last year. He was 16 years old. How do you ignore a child who will get in your face and follow you around as you are trying to ignore the behavior? He's following you around to get attention, I'm assuming. How do you ignore?
This actually was my personal child. It's Dana. It was my personal child when they were younger. They're an adult now, but she was terrible at having tantrums, and so I tried to ignore that. And literally, she would follow me around. I had to lock myself in my own room to get away from her because she would not. It's like she wanted to make sure that I was watching her have the tantrum, watching her that she was mad. I mean, I tried many other things, and like I said, she'd get in my face, she'd follow me around, she just kept on and on. So I finally ended up one time locking myself in my own room, which then she beat on the door.
Yeah.
But I know in the classroom we've had some children this way as well.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough because you're ignoring that problem behavior and it gets more challenging as you're trying to ignore it. What I'm trying to say is ignoring, if I ignore it, did it really pay off? Did it really work? Did obviously locking yourself in the room worked, but then we started knocking and then how the knocking worked. So we really had to go back to that skill. A lot of us probably use conscious discipline in our centers, and we love conscious discipline, the conflict management, the time machine mat, all those great things, the survival to the executive thinking. But we put those words in, and this is where it kind of comes in too. If they're trying to get our attention inappropriately, we need to show them how to do it appropriately. If they're saying inappropriate words, don't we ever show them what to say that's correct? Tantrums can get pretty rough. I know they can. But they last longer because they've worked for so long. That's why they get really, really loud. They get really, really all those things because they've worked for so long. You kick the fire out of that candy machine because you've always been reinforced by putting your dollar in. So what I'm trying to say today is if I ignore that problem behavior in hopes that it's going to decrease, does it always decrease? There's also a theory of reprimands. I scold my child. I got a 14-year-old, and we scold all the time. Quit yelling at your game, quit yelling at this, quit saying this, all that stuff. But does his behavior decrease? Does it slow down? And it doesn't. So yelling and getting on to him isn't going to work. But going back to the ignoring, if I'm going to ignore that behavior, I need to teach a replacement behavior. And that's where a lot of the new trends kind of is leading to, the new research, the new stuff I've been falling in love with. That's where it's leading to. We're not just going to ignore the kids driving us crazy, those behaviors. We're going to teach through those skills. There's also a program, it's called Practical Functional Assessment, where this is going to sound strange, but we reward problem behavior. And I'm not saying we reward problem behavior as a bribe. I'm saying we use that reinforcement to turn off that behavior. And then we, after a while, as we're teaching those skills, we're teaching those replacement skills. But that's a whole nother discussion, whole other process. And I'm doing it currently with a child. And it's really, really awesome. It's neat. But the goal of today and the goal of the ignoring is I don't want to set on if I just ignore that problem, it's gonna go away. What I'm trying to get at is, did I teach a replacement skill? And if I didn't, I'm hoping, my hope is in that child that they're going to learn to do the right thing. You know, when we look at our preschool life skills, we want our kids to have communication, to ask for things or demand things appropriately. We want kids to tolerate being told no. We want kids to follow directions. And those are just three basic preschool skills that we want our kids to have. Am I teaching those three things by ignoring? And the answer is no. And that's what I'm trying to get at today. And I'm trying to get better at it myself. You know, I worked with a child this morning, and I'm fighting through the problem behavior, but any instance of those appropriate behaviors, he sat in his chair, he got quiet, he quit doing all those things, I'm throwing praise on him. I'm showing him what I want him to do. And then once he does it, I get a part of it, it's a big deal. And that's what I'm trying to get at today, teaching those skills. And I think it gets lost in the shuffle. I know that I've realized that. You know, we get so focused on, I need a strategy, I need an intervention, I need something to get me through. And we forget that our kids are 3 to 6 and they don't need a quick fix. They need a life skill put in there that helps them down the road. And I'm going to tell you guys about some cool programs that I've had the information for. It's really cool, really, really cool. Here's another example. But Mittenberger also says, if this is probably not the best example really, because if a child's hitting their head to get attention, sometimes children hit their heads to not get attention. There are diagnoses and disabilities where the children perform self-injurious behavior or hurting themselves because it feels good. And if I ignore that, I'm doing a huge disservice. So it's not always for attention. Just please understand that. You could also use Extinction for demands. You can use Extinction for sensory. If kids like to hand clap a lot, how their hands feel, I could put gloves on and I'm withholding the reinforcement of how the hands feel. You could also look at, when our kids do activities that they really hate to do and we don't allow escape. It gets pretty ugly. It gets pretty fishy. Not fishy. It gets pretty wild. But we're not allowing that escape. We're withholding that escape from that demand. So there's a lot of different ways to look at extinction. But as a whole, the focus of this training, the focus of this professional development is, it looks at extinction from another lens. If I simply ignore problem behavior in my teaching skills, am I really teaching that child how to act in that situation moving forward? And that's what's really important. If my child goes to Walmart and acts a fool, and it's happened to me. This way we don't go to Walmart at all, really. But I still go, just not him. But we had the Walmart talk in the car of how we're going to act when we go inside there. And then he does whatever he does, and then we leave. But I also teach him how we act moving forward. And I reinforce those behaviors. I love the way you were cool when we did this, or I may reinforce, but I teach skills along the way. If I don't want a kid in my classroom to throw a temper tantrum and he's using the temper tantrum to get out of doing something, then I need to look at that skill. Is it too hard? Is it too challenging? Is he asked to write his full name and middle name and his initials and his social security number, and he's like, it's too much writing. Can I make it simple as a letter or a vertical or horizontal line? Is the task too difficult? Can I break up that task and reinforce them along the way? You got to look at the whole thing. There's a reason why we do what we do. And we always look at our kids and go, well, that's a learned behavior. And it's easy to look at our kids, but also look at ourselves. Behavior analysis is not just for kids. It's not just for autistic kids, not just for special ed kids. It's the science of helping people. So it looks at everybody. Behavior is everything that we do. But those are very good points. You guys are doing very, very good. But here's kind of the meat and potatoes of today. And I'm glad you guys are listening so well and give me some good feedback. But like I said about Extinction, the behavior analysis definition is if I ignore that problem behavior, not the kid, it's going to eventually dissipate, decrease, go away, and we're good. But my point is, if I ignore a problem behavior, does it really make it go away? If I stop answering my phone for about those crazy car extended warranties, they keep calling. They don't stop. If I stop paying a credit card bill and I ignore that bill, does it really go away? Does it really decrease? If I ignore that tantrum and I ignore it and I ignore it and I ignore it, does it really go away? And it maybe will subside today, but did it really go away? That's why it's really important that we look at our kids as who they are. They are 3 to 5 and they're in a preschool setting. And if you are under my umbrella that I serve, you are 3 to 5 special education in a preschool setting. So you have to look at each child specifically and special and look at what's going on. There's a reason why there's a problem. We always say it happened out of nowhere and I don't know why. He just did what he did. There's always a reason, and we have busy classrooms and we have busy lives and we got busy things going on and we can't always stop and see those things. And that's fair. That's totally understandable. That's why I quit doing ABC data for my my teachers and my districts, because you don't have time to see what was the trigger, what was the setting event, what was going on, and then this behavior occurred, and then this happened right afterwards. We don't have the time. Yeah, we definitely need to teach our kids to cope with feeling situations, etc. And why is the best question. Why do we always not have the time to teach those skills? Why? This year with COVID going on, oh my gosh, we've had smaller classrooms and more individual-based services for our kids. I mean, that's probably going to end pretty shortly, and the rooms probably go back to what they used to be and all that stuff. But before we get to self-regulation, it starts with co-regulation. I'm going to show you how to breathe with me, and we're going to breathe together so you know what to do. If I teach you how to use a safe center in conscious discipline, first we do it together, and then you do it on your own. When we do the time machine and the conflict resolution, don't we do it together with the kids first before they branch it on their own? Or what really happens with it is we stop with the tell them I don't like it. And then it turns into them screaming at the other kid, I don't like it when you hit me. And then nothing was really solved because we didn't stop and actually teach and model and show what all those skills are really about. So it really starts with us. And Extinction's great, it works, but it doesn't teach anything. And that's my point for today. It doesn't teach anything unless I pair it with something. Was a skill taught to help the child get attention appropriately? Was a skill taught to get a break from a demand? You know, we have these cool break cards or and special ed or whatever. And if a demand's too tough or it's too demanding, they present the break card and they get a break and then they can go back to the skill. Here's another kicker. If they don't know what the card means, what the card says, what the card does, I didn't teach anything. And cross my fingers. Or a visual schedule. Well, he's, we got this going on. I'll pop in a visual schedule. And it's going to have all of our activities lined up together. I'm just as guilty. I still have the problem of I'll just do a visual schedule, but does the child know what those pictures are? Does a child know what that schedule is? Because if he doesn't, then I'm hoping those pictures will help. So I still have to teach a skill. I still have to teach him what those cards mean, what that visual means. If a child is having a difficult time with a classmate, I'm going to have to go over there and show them both how to talk to each other appropriately. I'm going to have to teach a skill. And I can use Extinction now and put the old way that really wasn't the best way on Extinction. And I'm going to keep rewarding the new way that keeps working. That's a good way to use Extinction. How is a child going to learn an appropriate skill if it's not taught? That's a $1 million question right there. How do you learn a skill you're not taught how to do it? I jump my kid for a lot of things at the house, but if he doesn't know how to do it, then what's going on? So you have to teach those appropriate skills. If he doesn't know how to handle his rage, or he gets attention in an inappropriate way, show him how to do it that's right. If he's saying words that he shouldn't be saying, teach him words he should be saying. How many times we say in our classrooms, use your words? We do. But do they know what words to use? Did we show them a phrase? Did we model a phrase? Did we teach a phrase? No, we said use your words. So we have to teach. We could ignore that problem behavior all day long, but if I didn't teach anything, I'm putting a lot of hope. There are side effects of Extinction. There are side effects of Extinction. Believe it or not, there's also unwanted effects of reinforcement. There's actually unwanted effects of punishment. So there is side effects of Extinction. This is the big one. This is what I've already brought up earlier, is the extinction burst. It could be aggression. I was trying to find an appropriate video, but there really isn't really an appropriate video for training purposes to go extinction burst route. But nonetheless, this guy is kicking the fire out of this machine. He is just absolutely angry at this machine. But the best way to look at it, and I said before and kind of reviewing, is the longer that behavior has been reinforced, the longer or the intensity of the burst. He came back from spring break, or she did, and she started, getting really upset when I told her to do this or I told him to do that. Well, for 9 days, he got reinforced for that behavior. Or when school starts back up and we have a really rough first week in August. Well, for how many months, how many weeks, how many days was that behavior reinforced? Just look at our kids, look at ourselves. Think of how many behaviors that you are used to. If you do, you get reinforced. You get a reward for doing it. This morning would probably be the best one for me. I'm very lucky that I live near this co-op, and I drive through a couple schools, and then I come up here. Well, I never have any traffic. I live in a small town. There's never any traffic in Hope, Arkansas. So I leave for work about 5 minutes before it's time to get here because I'm going to be here and there's no traffic, so there's no reason to run late. Well, today there was a fender bender, traffic's backed up. I could have easily got mad in my car, could have easily had some road rage because I never have traffic. I never have any problems. Um, there's construction on our bypass right now. I'm so used to driving through there. I'm so used to taking a turn right here, stop by the Piggly Wiggly, get my wife's a couple things she needs every once in a while, get in, get out. Well, one day I sat at the light for 30 minutes. I got mad because I always go through that light. I always go through easily, never have any problems. So the longer we get reinforced for things, the longer the intensity. This is why you hear from behavior specialists and you hear from so many people, it gets worse before it gets better. Well, it gets worse because we're going to have those bursts. We're going to have those angry moments because I always got my way. I always did this and then this happens. So during an extinction burst, these things may happen or occur. The behavior increases in intensity. It lasts longer, or it just increases altogether. So if I don't want the child to hit, or I don't want the child to push, and I withhold the reinforcement that they're used to getting, they're gonna get mad. The client I worked with last year, he was older. I really miss working with him. He had a lot of bursts. We played board games a lot. He loved numbers, and if I would withhold reinforcement, a turn, or I would withhold reinforcement, something great about the game, I would be kicked. I would be yelled at. We'd have some pretty big moments. But he's used to be reinforced for how he plays the game. And believe it or not, we had a lot of fun. I learned to play Skip-Bo with him, and I love that game. My little boy and I play that game all the time. Also, new behavior begin to start. The old behavior is not being reinforced, so new stuff may resurface. When I kick the machine, now I'm going to hit the machine. Now I'm going to move the machine. Now I'm going to yell at the machine. Keep pressing those buttons. Emotional responses or aggressive behavior begins to occur. Those tantrums. We always say those tantrums, it came out of nowhere. I don't know what happened. Well, we probably don't know what happened. We probably don't know what led up to it. But I tell you one thing, and I see with a lot of my clients, and maybe my eyes are more open this year, because my brain's about fried, all the studying I've been doing. But I look at that tantrum and I go, and I look at the data and I'm observation. I'm looking at what happened before and what happened after. I'm going, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then when we withhold that reinforcement that usually, stops the tantrum altogether. It's just it's neat. It really is neat. Like I said before, think about the candy machine or the drink machines always provide snack or reinforcement, and then one day it takes your money. What did you do? How did you handle it? There's an extinction burst. Another example would probably be road rage. You just get, oh my goodness. When a student's behavior is not reinforced in the classroom, what happens afterwards? Now, I've been saying it a lot, is the tantrum. But if I ignored that tantrum, did it really go away? And, according to the definition of extinction, we're going to say yes. But did we teach anything? Or actually sometimes in our classrooms in the real world, did it really go away altogether? And it probably didn't. I ignored it for today, and I ignored it during circle, and I ignored it during centers, but it came back, and it came back, and it came back. And that's the thing about extinction. You lose that reinforcement, it does go away, and then it comes right back. It resurges. So we didn't make anything go away. We did in that moment. We did something, or lack thereof, but we didn't make anything go away. Spontaneous recovery. This is a behavior analytic term for the resurgence. I won that prize and I got reinforced, and I won that prize and I got reinforced, and then I couldn't get the crane to get the toy, and I got mad, and I did the whole whatever the machine, and I walked away, and then a couple times later I got mad again. So spontaneous recovery, it's kind of like resurgence. That behavior that we were decreasing, the behavior that we ignored to go away, it comes back. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next hour, but it always eventually comes back. Because we're lying to ourselves if we say during a traffic jam, every single time we're used to getting through and getting reinforced, that we don't get mad, or that one time, or that there's always one time that we do. I think mine's the copy machine here at work. Oh my gosh, that thing will make you lose your mind. Some days I get reinforced. I press the button. Some days I don't. Some days I do. Some days I don't. And now I'm at the point where some days I just get mad, and then it goes away. It decreases. Not that the machinery is ignoring me or anything, but then it comes back. I'm in a hurry. I got 20 minutes to get to a site. I need some paperwork, and it can't turn off. That anger comes back. We went to that Coke machine, we put our dollar in, and then we go back to the Coke machine after all that excitement. We get reinforced, then we lose our dollar again, we get mad again. So it comes back. It comes back. So when we look ahead in time, the inappropriate behavior, being upset when I lost the claw machine, it went away. I've been a great player and I haven't been upset lately. And then I lose again and I get mad all over again. We taught Johnny these great skills. We still need to teach Johnny these great skills. But I ignored the problem behavior, the inappropriate behavior, reinforced things I want him to do correctly, appropriately. And then one day it came back. Doesn't mean we failed. It just means it came back. It recovered. So that's spontaneous recovery, when the previous behavior comes back after it went away. Misconceptions. I think I've already covered misconceptions. Extinction is often used as a way to ignore the behavior or the inappropriate behavior being exhibited by the students. This is a misconception. It's often used to ignore the behavior, inappropriate behavior exhibited. I'm just going to ignore it away and it's going to go away. The best way of looking at it is extinction means withholding reinforcement for the inappropriate behavior. If I put the red one in a real scenario, let's look at ignoring the problem to go away. A person shoplifts. They're reinforced by shoplifting. They steal. They got it. They got the candy, the toy, or whatever it is. In this case, it's milk duds. Let's assume the salespeople, they ignore the shoplifter. Is he going to stop shoplifting? Did ignoring make the shoplifting behavior go away? So it doesn't work in that situation. Probably doesn't work in a lot of them. If I ignore that shoplifter, is it going to decrease? We live in a wild world right now, but if we ignore those certain problems that are occurring, do they go away? No, we have to address those things. And this is a great example of, does ignoring teach a new skill, or does it really make the problem go away? In this case, if he doesn't get the candy, he gets in trouble. probably punishment because he really wanted the candy, it may decrease that behavior in the future. That's a great example. Problems with extinction. I think I've kind of been saying it over and over again, but I'm not going to say it enough. It does not teach a new skill. Extinction is often used by itself when it needs to be paired with another strategy or intervention, just like punishment. Punishment by itself doesn't always work either. And punishment's not, I disciplined my kid. That's not what I'm talking about. In the field of behavior analysis, punishment is I added something that they didn't like, and the behavior is going to slow down and decrease. Or I took away something that the child really loves, and the behavior decreases in the future. Like timeout. They're having a great time. They love their toys. Things are great, and then you pick them away. But if you pair that with reinforcement, you reinforce the good as well as took away the bad, it works better together, actually. Extinction is one of those things where it needs to be paired with something. In the field of behavior analysis, and even in most classrooms, you guys just probably don't know what the technical word for it is, but it's called differential. I'm going to type it in the chat box because I'm going to butcher it. Get the computer kind of slowed down a little bit. There we go. That's what it's called. Differential Reinforcement of Alternative Behavior, DRA. And we'll talk about that more here in a little bit. And that's a pretty hefty term, and you're all probably like, what? It basically means I'm going to reinforce something great that I want you to do, and I'm going to put on extinction that inappropriate behavior. This is kind of those things where I teach you how to use your words. I teach you the correct way of doing what I want you to do. And then when you do that, oh man, great, awesome job. There you go. The using your words, the functional communication is a big part of this. It's often used with this. Johnny he's just doing this to get my attention. And I don't like that. It's not appropriate. So do this instead. And then once he does that, oh, hey man, what's going on? I'm reinforcing that behavior, and I'm putting on extinction the other one. So I'm pairing it with something. Say this or do this. It serves the same function, just more appropriate. So we need to put those things well, I'm getting kind of my words here. But let's go back to the attention thing. I know we've been using attention a lot, but if kids push each other or shove each other or they yell at each other, that's inappropriate. That's not what we do as adults. It's not what kids need to do. It's maybe, but it's not appropriate. So we want to teach them an appropriate skill. So if we do the elbow, or we do the fist bump, or we do the high five, or we say something, we're going to reinforce those appropriate behaviors, and then we're going to put the inappropriate on extinction. We're going to let that kind of go away. That's DRA. How effective is ignoring? I think I mentioned this earlier. If I ignore a bill collector, it doesn't go away. I used to work for a rent-to-own furniture business. You can ignore us. We're going to call you on Monday, and you can ignore us on Monday. We're going to call you on Tuesday, and you can ignore us on Tuesday. But we're going to come to your house, and you can ignore that door, but we're going to keep coming back. I don't really know how or understand how inconspicuous the big old huge van with the company's logo on the side is. They kind of know you're coming. But you can't ignore us. We're gonna keep coming back because we need that matter settled. If a person does not know how to handle their finances, maybe learning how to manage their money would be far more effective in the long term. Now, if you're avoiding your bills, you don't know how to pay them. But if I taught you the skill of how to pay for them, how to do it better, that's probably more effective. Think about your students for a moment. We ignore a behavior that we know is inappropriate, but on the student's own accord, they must learn the new skill. They got to learn the skill on their own. It sounds kind of wild, but it happens a lot in special education classrooms. It happens a lot in preschool classrooms. It happens a lot, period. I'm putting that inappropriate behavior on Extinction, and that's as far as I'm going to go. But with DRA, I'm teaching a new skill. Something to think about. Advantages in using Extinction correctly. Well, I may sound like Extinction is a bad thing, but it can be a good thing. It really can be when used properly. Shaping. And I'm gonna get into this tomorrow. This is why I really hope you guys come tomorrow. I really hope you do. Because today I kept telling you Extinction's, bad. We're not teaching new skills. Well, tomorrow we're gonna dig deeper into shaping and go, okay, we're gonna teach new skills and how to use Extinction correctly. Because Extinction's part of shaping. Extinction's part of this next slide I'm gonna pull up here. It's part of it. When I shape language, I put the old stuff on Extinction, and I keep reinforcing the improving, the better word. Like in this actually came from a book. And let's see where I have it at. Right here. It's called ABA Visualized. It's really, really cool. I don't have any tied with the author, so I'm not making any money off of it or anything. But it has pages just like that. What Extinction looks like with some pictures. Has a lot of different concepts, a lot of behavior analysis concepts broken down real simple for you to understand through pictures. It's really, really cool. I like it a lot. And this one is my study friend, is the ABA visual language. This is more simple, more broken down easier, but I really enjoy this one a lot. It's really been great. But as you can see in the picture, shaping is a process by using the Extinction on that previous inappropriate behavior. We keep reinforcing those slight, subtle changes, and we build it all the way up. Shaping is used in teaching. It's used in, I think, really in sports. It's used in anything where we teach a new skill. And as we're building that skill, we just keep reinforcing those subtle changes. Like, for example, if I taught a learner how to use a pencil, what would I start with? If they even hold it like this, yeah, we're going to reinforce that. We're grabbing the pencil. If we work our way down to, 4 fingers and a thumb, I'll reinforce that now. My goal is to get to here, 2 fingers and a thumb, or if there's another way. But our goal is pincer grasp. But we're going to reinforce those subtle changes that get us all the way to there. If we're writing names, if we're learning how to write names, I guess pretty daunting. I'm 3 years old. I got to write my whole name. And in case you haven't noticed, my name's Patrick Schumacher, and there's a lot of letters happening. And I don't ever remember writing my name when I was 3 or 4. I remember in first grade, and I misspelled it, but my last name is just, it's something else. But we could work on the P. We could work on Patrick. We could, based on my current skill set, maybe the letter, maybe but we're going to build that. We're going to shape that. Another way of looking at shaping is scaffolding. You build on those skills. You build. Well, in this case, the same thing. We're building and we're reinforcing those subtle changes. This is a great way to teach new skills. Great way to teach brand new skills. And tomorrow we'll go into this a lot more too. Can't even talk. Differential reinforcement. This is another way of putting the inappropriate behavior on extinction and rewarding that appropriate desired behavior. And there's several different types. And it's also, to me, they're the same. I'm using shaping and I'm teaching and I'm training behaviors that I want the student to perform. And now, after I've trained that new behavior and taught that new behavior, I'm going to keep reinforcing that behavior. And those old habits, those can go on extinction now. I want to make a big deal out of these new skills. And I know in a classroom, you're like, oh my gosh. But if Johnny acted a fool during circle time, but Johnny knows to get on his spot now for centers, I'm not going to pick him first. I'm going to reinforce that behavior that I want him to do. That's what I've been wanting him to do. And obviously he showed me he knows how to do it. But I want to put the new habits, the new appropriate skills. I want to catch him being good also. But there are several different kinds. I'm in love with differential reinforcement. It's a big part of a lot of new concepts, a lot of new program designs, especially in the field of ABA that we're using with preschool life skills and other programs. If you stop and think about it, I think constant discipline uses a little bit of it. Instead of hitting and fighting, we're going to use our words. But we have to teach the time machine that. We have to, if we don't have the mat, we have to teach how to use our words. We have to teach how to stop and breathe. We have to teach co-regulation before we get to self-regulation. My point is, we have to teach an alternative behavior that serves the same purpose, and it's just as appropriate. Well, more appropriate. So going back to what I said earlier with the DRA, we're going to reinforce and reward behaviors, appropriate behaviors, while putting the old ones on extinction. I don't like you pushing me. I don't like you doing all that. I like it when you talk to me. I like it when you do this. We teach our kids how to use their words. Instead of hitting, we're going to reinforce using your words. But we still have to teach them how to use their words. I love conscious discipline. I love it when it's used correctly. And I think the problem with conscious discipline, and it happens a lot, I'm just as guilty, and I've been with centers that are, we like parts of it. We like the conflict resolution, or we like this part, and we like this, and we like this, we like this. It's a whole deal. But when it comes to DRA, we have to teach, we're going to use, this is a better way of handling conflict than that way. And I'm going to reinforce the good way, the right way, the appropriate way. Differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors. I've actually done this on one of my clients. It was pretty cool. It was actually pretty cool. Can you perform more than one thing at the same time? If I ask you to pinch your nose and clap your hands, can you do it at the same time? No, you can't. If I ask you to put your hands in your pockets and then bite your nails, you can't do those two things at the same time. So the cool thing about DRI is if I have a child, for example, who doesn't want to wear their shoes, I'm going to have that child wear their shoes and make them run around, make them walk around, make them dance, make them move around their feet. Because if I'm moving around my feet, can I take my shoes off? I can't. I probably should take my own advice because I'm a fingernail biter, but taking your shoes off, that's a great one. If a child hits, can't hit and hold books. Child bites his fingernails, can't bite fingernails and carry books. Give them a squeeze ball. Can't really do, well, maybe we could, but the idea is can't do this and that at the same time. So you're really reinforcing the incompatible behavior, and now you're putting the other one on extinction. Yeah, I tried it with the shoes, and I was blown away. Like last week, and they're like, "Mr. Patrick, she doesn't like to wear her shoes, and what do I do?" And I was always told, use a small, simple phrase, shoes on. You're right. We're going to say shoes on. We're going to keep it simple. But if I make her walk around, make her dance, make her do something, it's kind of hard to take her shoes off. Can't answer the word. Reinforcement with other behaviors. This is the mom and teacher attitude. Come on, guys. You can do anything except that. You guys can play with any toy in the house except that toy. You can do all these things but that. So we're going to reinforce every other behavior except that one. So if he's throwing a tantrum and that's inappropriate, then we're not going to reinforce the tantrum. But if he sits in his chair, or he says hi to a peer, or he grabs a toy, we're going to anything that's not that behavior, we're reinforcing. And then it puts the inappropriate behavior on extinction appropriately. Yeah, I struggled with that with DRO for a while. I really did, and I was like, "Oh, it's the mom thing." I'm not saying as a mean. It's true. You can do anything you want with your brothers except that. You can do anything you want except that, and it makes sense. And then, but these two guys are related, DRI and DRO. They are kind of related, but I like DRI a lot more than I really thought in the beginning, because you can't do two things at the same time. If you're in a line and your kid's doing inappropriate stuff, can't do DuckTales and push your friend. There's also some other things I've kind of done too, but that's nonetheless. Differential reinforcement with high rates, and then we've got low rates. This is basically kind of setting that criteria. Is there a behavior that I want to increase, and is there a behavior that I want to decrease? There are lots of things that we want our kids to increase in, and there are lots of things that we want our kids to decrease in. So let's stop and think for a second. What are some appropriate behaviors in your classroom that you want your students to do? We want them to sit on the carpet longer, right? That's an appropriate behavior, I would think. Hand raising, it gets kind of fuzzy in preschool because sometimes they all raise their hand, they all say the answer at the same time. But stop and think about for a second, what behaviors in your preschool classroom do you want to have increased? And more than likely, they're appropriate behaviors. They're desired behaviors that need to occur in a preschool setting. So that's our goal with DRH. We're going to set a criteria, and we want to increase that goal. So if we want to increase someone sitting at the table and eating, we're going to start out with 5 minutes. And they get through 5 minutes, all right, awesome job. It's a big deal. Balloons drop, everything, and we're just, we're going to give us a plaque, and it's a big deal. And then 6 minutes, and then 7 minutes, and then 8 minutes. We're going to increase that time. If we want Johnny to play with 4 friends, he has a hard time playing with friends. So we want to increase that behavior of being social and making friends. So today he hangs out with 2 different kids, and tomorrow it's 4. And then next week it's, we space it up, but our goal is to increase. We want our kids to stay in their centers. So if they stay in their centers for 5 minutes, awesome job. 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. We just increase that time week by week. And we just make a big deal out of those increases. And then when we look at DRL, that's the opposite. What behavior do we want lowered? We want a decrease. Of course, we want our kids to quit biting. Of course, we want our kids to quit running. Of course, we want our kids to quit hitting. Those are behaviors we want to decrease. And it's the same thing. And I know it's hard, but it's the same thing. We're going to set a low number. If we can get through 1 occurrence during center time of hitting, or 2, we set a low number, and then each week we start to decrease it. But our goal is to just not cut it off all the way. Like a smoker, if you're trying to quit smoking and you want to use a DRL, you don't go from 2 packs a day to a cold turkey. That's not DRL. It's we can go 10 and then maybe 8 the next week and then 5. We're lowering that number. I don't want to compare smoking with preschool, but I'm just trying to find an example of a behavior you want to lower and decrease. Also, you can't go wrong with building relationships. Dr. Megan Miller's the same thing on her podcast, and she had another video when we talked about extinction is a couple weeks back on a Zoom, and she continued to explore the same thing, building relationships. I thought this was a 4x5. I think it's actually a 4x10. But the idea was when I taught at a school several years ago, we had someone come into our class, our PD session, and they talked about relationship building. You spend 4 minutes for 5 days, 10 days, just hanging out with the kid. He wants to tell you about Pokemon or Batman or Spider-Man, Mickey Mouse, what's going on. We're non-judgmental. We're just listening and we're getting to know this child. We're going into the center and they're leading play. We're not going there and going, this is not how I want to play. This is how I want to. No, they're leading play. They're calling the shots. We're in their world. If they want to have control and they want to be the boss, that's fine. We're in their center. Obviously, we're still the teacher, but we're following there. Child-led play. It's great. It is great. Because I'm just following them. I'm not bursting their bubble. I'm not going into their bubble. I'm just following their lead. And I've learned the last several weeks, because I'm really pushing this for me. This is for me. Really work on child-led play. Because it's really easy as an adult to have adult-led play. This is how I want you to play. This is how I want you to build your blocks. This is how you need to do this. And then the kid's like, oh, hey, I want you to go. But if they're leading play, you need to be this character, or you need to build this, you need to work on this. And then you kind of follow their lead. You build that rapport up. And I've had some amazing things come out of child-led play. Model and teach appropriate behaviors if the situation presents itself. 4x5, or if I'm doing incidental teaching where I go in their center and I go in their world. I don't want to be a bubble popper. If I can model and teach, I'm going to model and teach. If the situation presents itself. A good situation for modeling and teaching would be 2 kids are playing together and a conflict arises over that toy. I'm going to come in, put the kids right there, and I'm going to model each one and show them what they both need to say. How many times do our kids think that sharing means I can get it now? That's not sharing. But going my turn, your turn, we're all 3 of us are taking turns and we're playing together. That's a great way to model. And I'm also teaching appropriate behaviors. Asking doesn't mean you always will receive, but I still want to learn how to ask before I start building that tolerance to know. But bottom line, we're going to teach, we're going to model, and we're going to review skills with the students. And it never ends. It never ends. You don't spend your time teaching rules in August and then say, oh, they got it, we're done. You do it throughout the year, not just after Christmas or spring break. You do it throughout the year. You're always modeling and you're always teaching. Our kids are like sponges. So we're the model and they're imitating what they learn from us. So let's teach them some appropriate skills. If I yell at my kids and they yell at me back, I don't like how it's inappropriate for them to yell, but wedding is hard. Wedding is very, very hard. There's a program I've been looking at. It teaches tolerance. It teaches tolerance, probably the best way to put it, without me trying to dance around, put new words in. But it starts out with teaching those phrases of my way, can I have a turn? Can I have a turn, please? And then, we always give them that turn. We always give them their way. And then after a while, we work on, not right now, not right now. And then if the child goes, okay, we reward okay. And if we say not right now, and then they're okay with it and they're playing, and they say not right now, and then we keep them on their toes. But we start out with teaching them what to say, and then we start to sneak in that tolerance response, because that's a huge skill for preschool. Huge skill. I think that's a huge skill for everybody, period. How to handle no. Our kids know what no means, but our kids have a hard time understanding what yes means. But if we teach yes first, it's going to probably be crazy business. But waiting is hard to teach. Getting rid of the word no is hard to teach. So it's cool. And I got some cool stuff for tolerance, and it's part of the preschool life skill thing. It's part of a lot of preschool programs that I've found for ABA, but it is an important skill. We get so excited about, I'm going to teach my kids how to ask. It's really important. Our kids know how to ask. It is important. But also research shows that kids who ask all the time for things, they exhibit problem behaviors. Well, stop and think for a second. You taught me how to ask. I asked, where is it? So I'm going to get mad you didn't give it to me. Well, I'm going to teach you how to ask, and now I'm going to teach you how to, not right now. I'm still working on that with some of my kids, but it's cool. It really is. We're not going to listen to this. We don't have another hour. We really don't. This is where today has been inspired. This is the inspiration for today. I got through most of it and I was just blown away. Absolutely blown away. On the PDF, you just can't hit the play button and it pops up. So you'll have to look at her up on YouTube. And the episode is Learned Behavior During Extinction. And this is where I came up with today on the learned skills. Yes, extinction's supposed to work. If I ignore it and the problem behavior decreases, okay, I get it. But in a sense, I'm not teaching anything. And the guy in the red shirt works in special ed, and he even said it several times in the podcast. We're not teaching anything. And it just was a lightning bolt for me to go, okay, I want my preschool teachers to be aware of the Do Better Collective, the Do Better podcast, and definitely this Extinction episode. So if you have time, please give it a listen. Give it a small listen. It's great stuff. It's great stuff. I don't want to listen to it right now. Okay. These are the references for where a lot of my information came from today. Most of our information was behavior analytic in nature. That's why I cited the first two guys, and then of course at the end, Dr. Megan Miller. I'm going to say it again. If you have time, look her up. Look up the Extinction episode. Look up her Do Better Collective. There's a lot of great stuff. A lot of great stuff. Tomorrow, I was really hoping you guys would join me for the journey tomorrow in shaping. I cannot stress it enough how today and tomorrow really kind of go together. I'm not doing that as a plug to get more business. I really tied these two concepts together because extinction and shaping go together. We're going to learn skills, and how we learn is really, really cool. And tomorrow I also want to go over some programs that I use shaping, that use differential reinforcement as a key feature in that program. And I just really cannot stress it enough, because that's where the research is going toward. Tomorrow we're going to talk about in the chat box. We're talking about the Balance program. The Balance program is a parent-led program that teaches shaping, teaches new skills, that teaches to our learners. It models after the preschool life skills. Honestly, I think this could go toward our teachers and our paras. It's 5 to 10 minutes a day, and I'd be happy with 3 to 4 times a week. Here are the skills I want you to present with this child. It's for emerging problem behavior, our uncooperative kids, our kids who don't want to listen and need these critical skills. So that's what really sold it for me right there. But it's really, really cool. And it works on 10 steps, 10 skills that our preschoolers need. There's the program that the balance is based off of is preschool life skills. Dr. Greg Handley is the author of of actually both programs, but the preschool life skills is amazing. I downloaded it. You get the whole thing if you Google preschool life skills Greg Handley, you get the whole deal, and it breaks down these specific skills. It has data sheets, all kinds of stuff, and it teaches certain skills that these kids need to have, critical preschool life skills that they need to have. I know we love social stories, but I'm really starting to kind of go away from the social stories. I'm going to read you a story, and when I get done with that story, you're going to become a better child, a better person, a better everything. Come on. But if I give you training or I give you a curriculum that embeds these skills already in there, and I'm teaching these skills, you really can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong. And there's another program I'm going to talk about tomorrow. Practical functional assessment. It's for your severe problem behaviors. It's reached right here, and we're going to work on not reinforcing problem behavior, but we're going to turn it on, turn it off, and then after we establish that, then we're going to teach. We're going to teach what to say. We're going to teach what to say that gets reinforcement, and we're going to say what some tolerance responses. Really, really cool stuff. That's your really high end. But to be really honest, balance can cover a lot of those things for these emerging problem behaviors. But tomorrow I'm going to get in depth, really deep on these 3 programs and really talk about shaping and differential reinforcement. I'm really, if you can't tell by my voice, I really am excited. I really, really am. My email is patrick.schumacher@swaec.org. If there's any question or any information, or there's anything you want me to talk about or learn, or we can learn more together about, please feel free to email me. This goes to, it's kind of a Gmail account, so it's like my phone gets it. So it's like texting me pretty much if you email me. I want to be your coach. I want to be your cheerleader. I want to help you out any way that I can. A lot of those programs I was just sharing you with, I'm still learning them. I have some pilots in mind to kind of help me get through them. And then after that, the sky is the limit. But I'm really, really excited of what's out there. And it really starts with skill building. It really, really does. You guys have been really, really great. Is there any questions or any concerns or anything before I let you guys go a little bit early? Okay. Well, if we don't have any questions or concerns or worries, or if you don't want to be that one person who keeps it going, you can definitely email me and we can go from there. But thank you guys so much for attending today. And please, please, please come back tomorrow and let's keep learning together about these wonderful skills. Thank you guys so much for your time. You guys have a great day.